you all for coming. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that my voice came back about a half an hour ago, because you'd all been very disappointed just to have a lot of, hands-on and not too much conversation. Jim and I, having reached the age of 1,001, get an awful lot of people that either come to the house or get us at dog shows and or get us to speak. And they sit around like a bunch of birds with their mouths open saying, "Teach me, teach me." And Jim Clark, who suffers fools badly, finally looked at him one day and said, teach me is for kindergarten kids." And he said, the more you say teach me, the more my wife and I say learn, learn. You go through kindergarten, you go through grammar school, you go through high school, and somebody checks on you and makes sure you do your homework and sure you have to pass tests, but it's a constant nagging to do your homework, go to the lectures, do whatever. You go into college, I'm sure that Dr. Ferguson will bear me out on this, and you are given a program to learn. And you are given ways to learn that program, that semester, that whatever. And it includes study. It includes the library. It includes keeping your mouth shut. It includes going to lectures and taking notes that you think are important. And I think from looking around here today that most of us here can start to begin to learn at that level. And this is what this morning is all about. I love interaction with the audience. I look at your faces. I see you've got question marks. I see you disagree. I see you have something that you are afraid that if you don't ask it now, you're going to forget it by the end of the hour. Stick your hand up in the air. No matter what we're doing, no matter what I'm saying, if you have a question, if you have an observation, if you want a point clarified, stick your hand up in the air. Perfectly happy to have you. The more the merrier. Every day is a school day for me. I can learn from you, you can learn from me. We can all learn from our English Cockers. The name Stubbs probably means to most of you who are interested in animals, one of the great animal painters. And it is well thought by people who know that the reason that he painted animals so exquisitely was that he painted them from the inside out. He knew intimately and well the anatomy of the lions and tigers and dogs and horses and people and everything else that he painted. And instead of just having a flat thing with lovely color, the object that he was painting, the animate object he was painting, just came through with a great deal of integrity because he laid the top on a very good foundation. The very successful breeders amongst us of all breeds who have not just bred one good dog, but have bred a family of good dogs are like Stubbs. They breed from the inside out. They know where the look comes from, not only from temperament and intelligence and ability to grow coat and ability to trim correctly, but they know where the look comes from, and they breed from that look, for that look from the inside out. What bones go with what? You know, the old story, the thigh bones connected to the ankle bone. This is the way it is. We talk of length of neck. Oh, look at the dog's wonderful length of neck. Look at that little short neck bugger over there. A length of neck on an English Cocker, a standard poodle, a giraffe, and on you and I is only 7 vertebrae long. And it depends on how that neck is set and where that shoulder lays as to whether you have a lovely, gracefully arched neck with a flat shoulder that just does about it perfectly, or a little Quasimodo neck because the shoulders are right up behind the thing. This is what I mean by the inside out. And I think as judges, and let's not even talk about judges per se with a badge on and a duty to uphold. A person who's evaluating dogs, whether it be in the show ring or to buy a brood bitch to round out their breeding program, or to go to a stud dog. Excuse me. You've got to look more than skin deep. You've got to have some idea of the anatomy of the beastie that you're dealing with. And if you start there, and if you come along from there, I think you will find that some of the things that are going to go on, I hope today, because I never know what I'm going to say until I get up to speak, Mr. Clark taught me that, will make more sense to you. The people who are part of the study group have this handbook. I really wish now that we'd had some things run off, because in the handbook there is a very good anatomical drawing. And if you will keep that kind of open, so that as we're going through, as we're talking, as we're doing about questions and answers and so on, we can refer to that, we can look at live dogs, we can do the whole business. If you would take out your copy of the standard, I think that's a good jumping off place. And we will start and we'll go through the standard, piece by piece and bit by beat. But the business of increasing your knowledge of evaluating dogs, no matter who you go to talk to them about their breed, the great breeders, the almost great breeders, the people who have had luck with one or two, the lectures you go to, the other judges you talk to, you are going to have a million ideas that are going to go into your computer. I hope it doesn't overload right up in here. If you're like I am, you'll go home from one of these sessions, whether you've gone to somebody's kennel, and I think of people being able to go to Ginny DuPont's kennel in the old days with cocker after cocker after cocker. I think of people being able to go to Ted Eldridge's kennel in the old days with Irish setter after Irish setter after Irish setter. You're home from those sessions, and before it goes from your head completely, unless you've had a little microphone going that nobody knows about, you sit and take notes. And at the end of doing this a half a dozen or 8 or 10 or 15 times, and you look at the notes, you find that you're going to have conflicting ideas, conflicting opinions. All of this is part of it. Everyone is entitled to an opinion. Our standard is written, most standards are written, so that it encompasses a variety of types. However, there is no difference of opinion about what is written in the standard. And if you come across a difference of opinion, reread the standard again. It's amazing how many people who breed a breed, like English cockers or poodles, haven't read the standard in years. Many of our very, very, very successful judges, names that you know are household words, read their standard either the night before they go to sleep of the breeds they're going to judge the next day, or if they've got 57 breeds of 2 and 3 and 5 dogs, will have their standards open and will refresh their memory, particularly with what's underlined in the standard, things in the standard that mean something to them. And generally the things that you underline in the standard are what means type to them. Soundness, everybody knows. The junior showmanship kid, the first thing they understand is when a dog goes away from them, it's either sound or it's cowhocked. The last thing anybody remembers to learn or gets enough knowledge to learn is how much a front and a shoulder mean to the whole dog. It's the front and the shoulder that the whole dog is hung on. And it's one of the last things to learn because it's very complex. It's not like a hindquarter. It's good going away. It's not cowhock. Its tail is up the right. That's very easy to learn. But type is what makes the breed. Type is what makes the English cocker look like an English cocker, not a Springer, not a short-legged setter, not an American cocker. There are certain things, balance and proportion, size, proportion of bone to size, proportion of head. All of these things say to the world, this is an English cocker. One other thing while I'm in this part of my discussion, it's interesting, and some of our applicants who are applying for English cockers and have come here hopefully to clear up some problems that they have with the breed. Some of you come from smooth-coated breeds to judge a coated breed. And as Jim so often said, there are two things about people and dogs that are universal. If you breed pointers, you learn to evaluate dogs by eye. If you breed standard poodles, you learn to evaluate dogs by how they feel under the coat. And it's two totally different ways. So that if you're coming from a smooth breed, you've got to learn to use your hands to get into a coated and trim breed. To let your hand see what perhaps your eye has been tricked into something else. The other thing is that if you come from a self-color breed, you are used to looking at differences in head to tell this bitch from that bitch. Difference in expression. You never think about color. Oh, that's the heavy bone bitch. Oh, that's the bitch with the light eyes. Oh, that's the bitch with the high ears. Because you look at those things to differentiate between those dogs. If you come from a broken color breed, you're apt not to do that. You're apt to say, oh, that's the black and white pup. It's the blue roan pup. Oh, that's the red bitch. It's very interesting, and interesting to think that without you knowing it, part of your evaluation process has been imprinted by things you never thought about before. So you've got to get all of these things in your head and mix it with a great deal of curiosity. I think I'm probably one of the most curious people in the world. I'll call home and Jim will say, I heard from so-and-so, and so-and-so went best of breed at the specialty show. Oh, that was nice. Who went best of opposite sex? Well, I didn't ask. Well, how could you not ask? Well, I forgot that you were going to ask me that question. Why do you want to know who went best of opposite? Well, I want to know whether the judge was consistent. Did the best of breed dog and the best of opposite sex bitch look alike? Were they the same type? You know, all of these things. He said, you're the damnedest, most curious person I've ever known. In 26 years, I've never gotten used to you. Well, I hope I never stop being curious, because it's my curiosity that keeps me going. And it's the challenge of having a ring full of dogs that I can deal with very much the same way that an artist deals with a canvas. There's a class of open dogs. It's a breed that I've been involved with since I was 6 or 7 years old. I feel the breed. I feel I know the breed. You may not totally agree with what I like in the breed, but that's fair for you and it's fair for me. But judge the breed so that it's consistent, so that people can understand what you're doing, so that people can understand the statement that you're making. Don't judge the breed on heads one class and showmanship one class and color one class. Judge the breed consistently class after class. And to me, that means starting with the first thing you look at. What's the first thing you look at in a dog? What did you say? I'm over here. And I'm looking at, I know what you thought I meant, but that was the wrong thing for you to say. I'm looking at 25 dogs in an open dog class. What's the first thing that you see?
Overall proportion.
You got it.
I thought you meant on the table.
No. We're a long way from the table. You look at balance, proportion, size, and mouth. That's the trash man. Don't you have trash men in Canada? I'm going to call Martin and find out whether that's true or not. In the first paragraph in your standard, which is entitled General Appearance, is what you see when you attempt to sort that class out. The English Cocker is an active, merry sporting dog, standing well up at the withers. Doesn't mean he slunks into his shoulders. And compactly built. He's alive with energy, sometimes too much. His gait is powerful and frictionless if he's been lead broken, capable both of covering ground effortlessly and penetrating dense cover to flush and retrieve game. His enthusiasm in the field and the incessant action of his tail while at work indicate how much he enjoys the hunting for which he was bred. His head is especially characteristic. He is above all a dog of balance, both standing and moving without exaggeration in any part, the whole worth more than the sum of its parts. That last part of that opening paragraph is due to Dr. Ferguson, and I think is one of those phrases that is so gorgeous, and I think I understand it, but I don't understand it quite. But the whole worth more than the sum of its parts. That means that you never see a head, a hindquarter, a front. It's just the whole. And that's what a cocker is, a piece, a piece. Has anybody got specific questions to that first paragraph? Come on, then don't let me down, because I don't have a lot to say. You've got to do part of it. You don't have anything to say? That's unusual.
No.
That's unusual.
Still too early.
That's your excuse. It's too early for that, too. Size, proportion, and substance. Size. The height at the withers, males 16 to 17 inches. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. How tall? The dog is 16¼ inches. He is a boy, a male. And he's a lot of dog in that amount of scope. This is an 8-month-old puppy who may or might, could you stand up, sir? 7-month-old puppy who is a very good size for his age and may or may, probably would go to 16. And the withers, as I'm sure you all know, is the highest point of the shoulder. Sometimes, and this is interesting, sometimes the wither is on top of the shoulder bone, and sometimes the wither is the spiny process that comes up between those shoulder bones. It depends a little bit on the set of the shoulder, but that's where it's measured from. All of these have got a good girl. Just the shoulders are just down a little bit from the highest point, and that's where they're measured to. Whatever. Bitches go 15 to 16. There's very often a remarkable difference between dogs and bitches. This bitch is how old?
She's a puppy bitch, isn't she? How old is it?
This is a 9-month-old puppy bitch. We'll go a little more in size, but not a lot. This is a mature 2-year-old red bitch. The puppy dog I showed you and the mature dog. There's a lot of difference in size, bone, and substance between the dogs and bitches in the breed, and this is good. I happen to breed another breed, Norfolk Terriers, where the only way to be happy in them and not have cesareans is to have great big roomy bitches and small but heavy boned masculine dogs, but small. That's the only way that you get puppies that can be born naturally, and that's the way a lot of people breed successful toys. They have big roomy bitches and little tiny dogs. This breed we can breed much more naturally, in that we have masculine looking dogs and feminine looking bitches. The most desirable weights, males 28 to 34, females 26 to 32. I always thought that those were low weights until we started weighing some dogs, and they're perfectly normal weights. Proper conformation and substance should be considered more important than weight alone. We have a breed that we're looking at that have gone from the Comanche Rancheros through my brain cell has just died. Pam Hall's Constellation dog that everybody screamed, too big, let's have a size disqualification. They're way too big, and the cooler heads in the breed said, wait. We have a breed where, particularly in the dogs, they go from the highs to the lows and back up to the highs. It's in a curve. Don't make a disqualification. Love the dog that's out, that's on the big side, because from him you're going to get back some bone and substance and masculinity, and it's going to taper off, and they're going to get back to what we want more in the standard. Then they get down into the lower side, and everybody says, too small, too bitchy, wait a while, it's going to come back up. Don't mess with size that much. If you find a dog that is in beautiful balance, is beautiful type, can come and go, can keep himself together from the side, and he's a little big or a little small, if you like him and he fits the word of the standard, use him or her. Proportion. Proportion is a very important part of any standard because it sets the type of the animal that we're looking at. We are going to find the words here repeated over and over in the standard: compactly built and short coupled. Compactly built and short coupled. Here is a perfect example of, excuse me, princess. Compactly built and short coupled. There's her loin. There's the top of her shoulder. There's the set-on of her tail. She is a short-backed, compactly made, short-coupled, with a good, firm, muscular loin bitch. Compactly made and short-coupled. Not long, not rangy, not setter-like, not swan-necked. Compactly made and short-coupled. Don't worry. Here's a much bigger dog. There's his loin. There's the top of his shoulder. There's the set-on of it. Compactly made and short-coupled. Same thing. He's going to come up a little bit more on his leg, make your proportion a little bit more as he gets older. You've got to take that into consideration when judging the breed. I did the largest entry of standard poodles that's ever been collected together in this country last year in June. And I did a verbal critique after each class, which was kind of fun. It would have been more fun had the microphone worked correctly. And I did the puppy dog class 6 to 9, and I had 4 peas in a pod, all black, proper balance and proportion, so on, so on, so on. And I did my 9 to 12 class, and I had the same exact thing happen. 4 dogs, they could have been out of the same litter. Beautiful balance and proportion, well up on their leg, lovely length of necks and so on. And that night, before I went to dinner, somebody came along and they said, "It is so amazing to me that between your puppy dog 6 to 9 class and your puppy dog 9 to 12 class, you completely changed your type." And I said, "How so?" And they said, "Because your puppy dog 6 to 9 class, all of them were a little low on leg, and your puppy dog 9 to 12 class, they were great, tall, elegant poodles. And why did you change your type?" And I said, "Because when they're 6 to 9, they haven't made their leg yet. They haven't come up on their proportion. Most every normal breed starts to make their leg at 7 to 7.5 months and goes on from there until they're 10 or 11 months old. And this, you know, you look and you say, well, here's a dog with a lot of angulation at both ends. It's going to straighten a little bit. They're going to come up on their leg. And that's one of the things that you have to have inside your head when you're judging a breed on a specialty show level where you have a lot of choices to make. It's not the business of looking in a crystal ball. It's the business of recognizing what's inside that will make its appearance outside. Go back to your business of bones and lengths and so on. That think how many puppies you've seen that looked almost as though they had too much angulation behind, too much angulation in front, and you looked at them and said, yeah, but they're going to come up on it. And they do. They come up, they make their leg, they do their balance and proportion. Thank you. Compactly built and short couple with height at the withers slightly greater than the distance from the withers to the set-on of tail. Describing proportion in an English cocker, as we found out when we worked on the standard, is a very, very, very difficult thing to do. Describing proportion in a standard poodle is so easy. It's the same as the proportion in a Afghan or a Doberman. From their breastbone to their seat bone is the same as from the top of their shoulder to the ground. That is a square dog. English cocker is not a square dog, but it's not a long dog either. It's an oblong, slightly oblong dog. Slightly oblong dog. By no means would you say that bitch was long or short-legged. She's compact. She has the right amount of leg for her type. Same way with Squeaky Beak here. And the same way with Voodoo here. Very good man. The English cocker is a solidly built dog with as much bone and substance as is possible, without becoming cloddy and coarse. You don't want a racehorse but you don't want a Shetland pony either. You want that nice, workmanlike in between that has the substance to make them hardy and yet has the ability to cover ground and go into dense cover. What about questions on this part? You're letting me down. Are you asleep? Now we're going to get to the head for you.
My head.
The head, general appearance strong, yet free from coarseness. Softly contoured without sharp angles. Taken as a whole, the parts combine to produce this expression distinctive of the breed. There is a very handsome head, a very handsome cocker head. About the same from nose to stop as it is from stop to occiput. Enough lip to fill out the front. I'm going to get to that. You noticed what I did underneath the dog's jaw, which was just to take my educated fingers and pick up a little bit of his throat. This dog is by no means a throaty dog. Anytime you have enough finish of foreface, of definite lip, you are going to have something in there. The minute you have a dog with nothing in here, you have nothing in here because it just, one goes with the other. That's skin, and it's got to come from someplace, and it's all in balance. But when you're showing a dog and when you're making a pretty head even prettier, you just tuck a little bit of that up in there. And certainly when you're having a picture done for Best in Show. Let's talk a little bit about parallel planes, because this is a talking point all over the world. Jim and I judged in Buenos Aires last July, and we had an absolute ball because we did 2 separate dog shows at the same time. They left my ring, they went to his ring. And boy, there wasn't too much sleep that night because I kept saying, "How could you not?" And he kept saying, "Well, how did you do this?" You know. And I got a liver-own puppy up on the table who looked very familiar. You know where Buenos Aires is? It's way down there. And I looked at him, and he looked so familiar. And I looked at his head from the side, and I ran my hand over his high frontal bone and his receding back skull. And the man who was showing him, who had English, said, "Don't worry, Mrs. Clark, it will become more pronounced as he gets older." And I thought, shut up, you're in a foreign country, they'll draw and quarter you, so I didn't say anything. And that night, or after the shows, we had an open forum. We had 4 times as many people as are here. We had an interpreter. Our backs were to a wall, thank God. And questions came from all over, which we fielded and which we discussed. And the same man got up, and he said, without the interpreter, "I noticed that you were concerned about my puppy's head not breaking enough." And he said, "I know the breeding. As a matter of fact, it goes back to yours." And he said, "It will break more as he gets older, so he will have that lovely swooped back skull." And I said, "But au contraire. That's not what is wanted." He said, "That's not true. That is what's wanted. That's the way that..." And this man wrote an article in the English Cocker Quarterly recently and talked about this. Beth McKinney, who God knows we all owe a great debt of gratitude for all of the work that she's done for our breed, takes great exception to this business that some of us adhere to, that we want parallel planes, that it's never been in the standard and so on. And the only thing that I have to say about that is I've been in this breed longer than most people have been alive. We always wanted parallel planes. You look at the pictures of the old dogs, they had parallel planes. Most of our party color English cockers go back to according to Mr. Lloyd, a cross with a Springer or a setter, and you certainly want parallel planes in those breeds. And parallel planes seem to me to be the way to go. At least that's, when I find them, I reward for them. This is very handsome in parallel planes. Stay there. The puppy dog does not have parallel planes. He may get them. And one of the things that you get in gorgeous mushes like this is a tendency to drop off here. And